This video concerns Unit 2, Day 3 of Math 060. This unit talks about multiplication and division of numbers that are either positive or negative. Sometimes they're called signed numbers, sometimes they're just talked about as integers. One of the things I wanted to start with before we got going was to remind you some of the rules of the road. We've already talked about addition and subtraction when there are positive and negative numbers involved. And remember, if it's subtraction, you're going to turn it into an addition problem. Here, if the signs are the same, just combine. Same sign, just combine. If the signs are different, you're going to find the difference. And remember, the big dog wins. So, multiplication and division are a little bit different. With multiplication, if the signs are the same, the answer is positive. So that is if I have a positive number times a positive number, my answer will be positive. By the same idea, same signs, a negative number times a negative number will also give me a positive. Same signs are positive. If I have mixed signs, for instance, a negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative, my answer will be negative. Mixed signs mean minus, MM. Oh, down here I have a star in the word generations, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit when I do the homework. Keeping in mind that mixed signs, only if you're down to 2 will that be true. Only if you're down to 2 factors will that be true. But generally speaking, for what we're doing here, same signs are positive, mixed signs are negative. That's for multiplication and division, and please, oh please, oh please remember that division also includes fractions. So if I have a positive over a negative, that means the whole answer will be negative. If I have a positive divided by a positive, my answer will be positive. If I have a negative divided by a negative, my answer will be positive. Again, as you see this more through the homework and as we practice, you'll get a better feel for this. But generally speaking, this is something I really want you to remember. So let's look at the problems. Here's our first one in 9.4, and they're asking us to do some multiplication with signed numbers, integers. And again, the first thing I'm going to do when I look at this, I'm not going to try to do the math. I'm going to look at it and ask myself, what signs am I working with? So here I have a positive and here I have a negative. And if you remember, a positive times a negative is a negative. So that means 7 times positive 7 times negative 8 would be, the answer is 56, and the answer would be a negative number. Mixed signs are minus, mixed signs are negative. Here in number 5, I'm still working with 7 and I'm still working with 8, and remember that parentheses means I'm multiplying. When there's no operator in between them, when they're right like that, that means you're multiplying. So here, let's look at the signs. That's a negative and that's a negative. And remember, same signs, a negative times a negative is a positive. So 7 times 8 is 56, and it's a positive. Same signs, positive. Here with number 9, I have 2 things going on. First of all, I have to look at my signs. So here's a negative, and here's a positive. Mixed signs mean my answer will be negative. The other thing I want you to remember, though, is that you're dealing with decimals. And I want you a little quick review on multiplying decimals. Here's 2.1 times 4.3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Next line. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Add them up. That's 9.3. Well, it looks like 903 right now, or maybe even 903. Where do I put the decimal point? Well, remember, when you're multiplying decimals, you're going to count up how many places were to the right of the decimal points. In this particular case, there were 2. So I'm going to start here and say 1, 2. So my answer is, going back up here, a negative times a positive made my answer negative, and my answer is negative 9.3. Let's look at the next one. Here, okay, we have some fractions going on. First of all, I want you to think about looking at the signs. So here I have a negative times a positive. And remember, even if you look at this fraction, it's 2 positives, so the whole thing is positive. So here I have a negative times a positive is a negative. Mixed signs mean minus. And since I'm just multiplying with fractions, I don't have to get too fancy. Remember, negative 12 is the same as negative 12 over 1. And I can just do, here I have across, reduce. Across, 12 times, negative 12 times 2 is negative 24. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I'm going to do some division. 3 goes into 24 8 times. That's a positive and that's a negative, so the answer will be negative 8. I ended up with a negative and a positive, so I have a negative. And this is where I talked about on that first sheet about the idea of generations, and mixed and same will work if you have 2 factors. And here we have 3 factors, so I want to do this in steps. So I'm going to look at these 2 factors first, and here I have a negative times a positive. 4 times 3 is 12. A negative times a positive means a negative, so negative 12. And here I have a negative 2, and that's a negative times a negative make a positive, right? So 12 times 2 is 24. My answer is positive 24. Again, here was my first generation, and here was my second generation. First generation was mixed, so it was negative. Second generation, second line was positive, was the same, so it was positive. And again, being very systematic and doing it step by step will keep you from getting confused. Let's look at the next page. Here we're dealing with exponents, and I want you to remember that this little sign up here is not times. It's an instruction about multiplication, but it's telling you to take this number and multiply it by itself 2 times. So here's negative 4. Let me do this in a better color. Negative 4 times negative 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. So 4 times 4 is 16, and so the answer is a positive 16. This one is a little different and a little trickier. I want you to remember that even though there's no parentheses or no brackets around it, this is a little unit of operation that we need to think about. So this one is saying, before you even look at that, it's saying take 4 and multiply it by itself 2 times. So that's 4 times 4 is 16. And then, it's saying take the opposite. So first you're doing the multiplication, you're squaring it. 4 times 2 is 4. Oh, now see, I did it. 4 to the second is 16, and take the opposite, so your answer is negative 16. This last one here on the page, we have to remember our order of operations. These are brackets. They work just like parentheses. It's just another way to sort of help you keep things straight. So I'm going to take care of what's in here first. So first I want to change this into an addition problem. So that's -5 plus -9, right? That's why you do brackets. And if I take this down, that is negative, same sign, just combine, -14. Now I'm going to look at this, and right outside the brackets I have a 2. And remember, if there's no sign between it, you're multiplying. So 2 times -14, that's a positive times a negative, so my answer will be negative. 2 times 14 is 28. And then I'm just going to bring this down. -7 plus -28. Same signs, just combine. 28 plus 7 is 35. They're both negative, so my answer is -35. Again, we did order of operations, so we had to handle what was inside the parentheses. We needed to turn it into an addition problem, which made it plus -9. -5 plus -9 is -14. Positive 2 times -14 is -28. If I combine that with another negative number, I'll get a negative number as my answer. 7 plus 28 is 35, so my answer is -35. And here is the last one with this particular set, and they're asking you to estimate. Estimate means you're going to try to do this in your head, but I'm writing anyway, so because you can't see what's in my head. I'm going to start with this. First, I know I have a negative and a negative, so my answer will be positive, right? There's a positive. Oops, sorry, negative times a negative equals a positive. So I know that. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of basic estimation and rounding. 32 is really close to 30, and 30 is 3 times 10. 522 is really close to 500, and I know that 500 is 5 times 100. So what if I said 3 times 5 is 15, and 10 times 100 would be adding 3 extra zeros. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is about 15,000. Again, I just took it apart. 3 times 5, 10 times 100, multiply them together, and you get 15,000, which is answer A. And that's it for 9.4. There'll be a separate video for the rest of the problems for this day.